All right. Hello again, friends. Welcome to another video for the relationship installment because apparently we need to discuss basic principles around human interaction and dating and how to achieve harmony in our personal relationships. So I opened yesterday, Friday. Yeah, it was Friday, February the 16th. Today is Saturday, February the 17th. So I was thinking, well, how would even somebody start dating and like what's really important about that? So, yeah, let's get into what you're actually looking for and how to be a discerning person. So, first of all, welcome to Guru Grit. This is all about empowerment. I'm sure you already know, but if you're watching this, you know, because a few of us hang out all the time on the TikTok lives. However, what's really important to know and understand is going to be being honest with yourself. Okay, so I put honesty in dating, like what is really important, what is the value of anything? Well, what's really important in life obviously is going to be your own self-empowerment. Okay, that's to me like self-realization, actualization, fulfilling your own potential. Those are the most important things ever. Like it's why you're here. Why else would you be here if you're not going to achieve your God-given potential, okay, as a human being? Now, if we rope in another human being into our experience for the purpose of a relationship, and I mean any relationship, but because it's February and we did yesterday's like long video on relationship things that was based on a live I did previously, romantic relationships. So honesty obviously has value. So I'll start with this point. Honesty is a valuable thing, but it's just like most other things, it's pretty neutral. Okay. So Rudolf Steiner said that something to the effect of whether something is good or evil just depends on the timing, and I always thought that's actually really true. So if you're walking on the street because you just left IKEA and you've purchased a kitchen knife and it's in your bag and it's sealed, you're just someone who needed a kitchen knife, in a different context. If you're walking on the street with a sharp metal blade, it's not cute, it's like worrying. Okay, so there's context is so important and timing is so important, and this brings us to the idea of honesty. People think if you tell the truth, you're honest, it's a very good thing. But not really. It doesn't automatically mean that you're good. Like, I mean, to be honest, let's say you find a wallet and you return it to the person without stealing anything. You know what I mean? That's a good deed. That's just because you're good. You happened to have done that. I don't know that I would call it honest. It's like transparent and straightforward, sure. But it's important to remember that bad people can lie. So I wanted to call this video Honesty Does Not a Good Man Make. Honesty does not a good man make. Okay, so you can have men tell you the truth. It doesn't actually mean that it doesn't mean what you think it means. Okay, so there's value in honesty, but there's also value in dishonesty. And that's something I feel a lot of the times people don't really discuss. So they focus on things such as I'll give you an example. I do know someone who was with somebody for a very long time, not like 2 years. I mean, the majority of their adult life. And this gentleman kept telling this lady, that he loved her and he saw himself with her. Those were his words. And she says, but he meant them. And he initiated saying all those things. I know he meant them. Okay. So that's being honest. He meant what he said, but he didn't do anything about it. He didn't actually propose to her. He didn't court her. He didn't move in with her. So you have to learn to have a lot of discernment when you're dating. So you could say, but that's just a liar. Okay. Because his actions and his words don't match. That's true. So in some sense, that makes sense, but maybe he did mean it. But here's the thing I want you to ask yourself. Does it actually matter? What does it matter if they meant it? If it doesn't produce results, what's the point? Like think okay, so let's think about it from an occult perspective. Like in terms of magic, if you're a magician, if you're interested in any of those things, if something doesn't produce almost revolutionary results, but certainly observable results in your physical material reality, you stop doing what you're doing. You find something else. You find something else to talk about, to think about, different procedures and methods. Okay. So it's the same thing with dating. If people are saying things that you want to hear, but you're not getting something from that that's actually changing your life, it's not producing results. It's not producing a relationship, a marriage, a child, a life, a home. You have to change what you're doing. Okay. So honesty is valuable in that we equate it to goodness, though it doesn't really have anything to do with goodness. Somebody can come up to you and say, I'm going to shank you. And they're telling the truth. You're not going to go, oh, what a nice person. You're going to run. Right. So that's the thing. The other thing is dishonesty is also valuable. If you're weak, if you don't want the smoke, if you don't want the responsibility, lying is a really easy way to get out of things. I don't think that it's something you should do, but like I've said many times before, this world, if I could banish anything from the world, any evil, it's immaturity. Okay. It's a result of just being a weakling. Okay. It's just very frustrating and I do not care for it. So you have to understand, just because someone tells the truth doesn't mean that they're actually going to act upon it. And people will say like a white lie is good. Da, 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 da. I don't know about that either. I think it's not what you do, it's how you do. It's not what you say, it's how you say things. You have to have decorum and timing and emotional intelligence and social intelligence. But anyway, so the value of honesty basically is it's most valuable if you're honest with yourself first and foremost. Be honest with yourself. Okay, but a lot of the times the heart wants what it wants, so it really doesn't care. The heart's a very powerful thing. Call it the second brain. I would argue it's the first brain. It's brainier than the brain, and it's pretty much the most valuable thing that you can trust as a human being is trusting your own heart. So I think a lot of the times what women tend to do is they hear the words they want to hear from the person that they, hi Maria, that they want to hear them from, and a lot of things go out the window, right? So it's like, oh, I want to get married, but I want to get married to him. And while he's saying the things that I want to hear, it doesn't really matter if it's been 5 years. It doesn't really matter if, I bought him a car and he hasn't paid me back. Da, 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 da. Don't do that. Be honest with yourself. It takes a lot of self reflection. And I'm not trying to sound cruel, but so much of the time, when you listen to those, like, one of these days, we've got to cover those like horror Reddit stories. Okay. But when you listen to those stories or when you go through life, you meet people, you hear what they've been through. It's really no accident. Like maybe 10% something came out of the blue and really was just like horrible and shocking or something like that. But Abraham Hicks says nothing comes out of the blue, it comes out of the oblivious. Like you just weren't aware. So I remember one girl on TikTok making this video, which I can completely resonate with because I'm just like super naive and trusting, but she said, I didn't ignore red flags. I was just so like good natured or pure of heart that I just didn't know that somebody was capable of something so awful, But so much of the time, the people around this person are like signaling to them something's wrong. You shouldn't be doing this, but they don't hear it, okay? Because they're like, love is really, it's a form of possession. Like you're basically spellbound by your own desire. So you don't want to hear it, but it's like staring you in the face that this was building up to some awful crescendo, okay? So be honest with yourself. Okay, that person said they're going to marry you. Oh, it's not what you do, it's how you do it. Okay. Are they, there's those like Reddit things where the women are like, my husband literally told me on our wedding day he didn't want to marry me. Why'd you go through with that? Do you, they're telling you to your face. And so that's the first thing is like actually be honest with yourself. It's not what you say, it's how you say it. Okay. You can tell when someone's telling the truth because we're mammals. So I really don't believe a lot of the time people don't know somebody was being dishonest. I just don't buy it. You don't even have to have crazy intuition. We're animals first and you can smell it. Like you can your brain picks up microaggressions, okay? Micro expressions, sorry. And even like celebrities and stuff when I'm online and I'm like this person's like crying and they're so sorry. I'm like they're not sorry. I was like, why do you even need a body language expert to break this down for you? As long as your eyesight works or you're hearing one of the two, you can tell instantly something is off about their pitch, something is off about the way that they're crying, like so fake. Like, if you were a kid, your mother would let you off of school for the day faking at that. Like, that's terrible. Even like some of the best actors, you just can kind of tell, like, that's not, I don't buy it, and you do this for a living. I'm not buying it. So be honest with yourself. Like, actually sit down and reflect deeply. Like I said yesterday, most people don't even know why they want a relationship. They don't even know why they want to be married. Like, just be so for real, okay? And that's a form of defense. That's a defense mechanism. When you're really telling yourself the truth, then you just feel more at peace with life, and whatever happens doesn't have as much potential to hurt you or slight you or some such thing, okay? So that's like the value of honesty, okay? Being honest with yourself first and foremost is very empowering. It's very empowering. And I actually learned this passively. So I was in a group, and some of you know who watch this. I have a lot of religious friends, and they were like talking about marriage, and they said, "I just want to have my own home. Like I want to get like they're basically all get married quite quickly, like 2 months." And they said, "Well, yeah, like I want to have my own house, do what I want to do. I don't want to." Do things by my parents' rules. I want to, if it's 8 o'clock, I want to go out, get a coffee or a treat. I want to be able to do that. I don't have to answer to anyone, explain myself to anyone. So you see, it's like it's cultural. It has nothing to do with Not saying that they don't like their husbands or love them, but it's not really like love wasn't their primary motive. Or it was like basically what marriage is made for, which is growing up, right? So they just wanted to like grow up as quickly as possible and have their own home and do their own thing. And I thought that's being really honest with yourself. I really respect that because you're not just looking at some guy and deluding yourself into thinking like he can be all the things that you need. No, when you know what you want, like you want a home, you want independence, you want a source of renewable source of like a financial well, basically an allowance or something, a resource to tap into, you're probably going to get it because you're keeping it real with yourself. But if you're like, as long as whoever's here, that's the person I'm going to get that from. You can't make them fit that mold, right? But if you know exactly what you want and why you want it, it's a lot easier for life to just like bring it to you or God to give it to you or whatever, right? So I thought that's very, very honest. That's very honest with yourself, you know? And because you're honest with yourself, you're going to have a higher chance of attracting somebody who gives you the freedom to be your total self. So this is another problem that I see in the modern like dating game, like cesspool of humanity, absolute okay, garbage, is the game playing. Like, oh, I don't really want to come across as desperate. I don't really know, like if you, nah, nah, nah. Who cares? Who cares? If you're truly cool, you're not scared. You don't care. You'll just do what you want, say what you want. Someone likes it, that's cool. They can stay. They don't like it, that's cool too. They can leave. That's great. You know, the spot just opened up. V is for vacancy. Who cares? But be honest with yourself that it doesn't actually bother you. And you have to know how to like advertise and market yourself. So self honesty really is the first step. Okay. Next, it's not what you do, it's how you do it. Okay. So true. Thank you, Rena. Okay. So again, you have to know why you want that relationship, such and such and such. Now, the third thing about honesty is also going to be lying. So I said, okay, maybe someone is honest. Maybe I'm going to use the example of a heterosexual couple, man and woman. And the man says, I really care about you. And that's actually true. He means that. And he says, I want to be with you. And that's true. He means that too. And he says, I want a relationship. And that's also true. In your mind, you're hearing this, you're thinking, this is good news because he knows I want to be married within whatever, 3 years. Okay, say you're 24, 3, 4, 5 years, whatever, right? Now, in your brain, you think because he said those things, it's only logical that you're on the same trajectory because for the western culture you're pretty much date and get to know someone before you get into a serious commitment. You're thinking, well, this is the precursor for that. But he didn't actually say that. You assumed it. And very painful lesson for me, wasn't to do with dating, but someone did say to me once, I think I was like 20 or 21. He just said, oh, Monica, because I said something like very positive and uplifting. And he said, it's very dangerous to assume. I thought, what a crooked bastard you are. You know what I mean? But he was right. Think about the politicians. Like you vote people in based on something that they said, but then they do takesies backsies, they don't actually deliver on their promise. So what are the consequences, right? So you cannot invest in just words alone. They must line up with action, which brings me to again, you heard something and thought it meant something that it didn't. And I think one of the reasons that people are so butthurt when their relationships fail, whether they're male or female, straight, gay, doesn't actually matter, is that you failed yourself. And that hurts so much more than an obvious betrayal. I think people think cheating is the worst. Cheating sucks. It's a horrible betrayal. But when a relationship just falls apart and you don't have anything particular to hate on or blame, that hurts. But when you just realize you could have done better and you chose not to, or you didn't know how, that stings the worst because your own love story with yourself is the one you're going to like live through forever. And that one bites. Okay. It just sucks like capitals. It sucks so hard. So when you hear something and think it means something, but you don't have the actual proof that that's what's happening, that's very painful. So in that moment, that person is telling, let's say this guy's telling his girl the truth. He doesn't really care about her. Doesn't mean he's going to marry her. That's the first thing. All right. You'll only know that if it actually happened. And even then, the other thing is I was watching like a TikTok clip yesterday, and somebody put up a clip of the universe guru Mina, and she said when she worked, I think it was like property development, and these men were so wealthy and they made so much money. And she said one guy was getting ready to go on like this luxury vacation, and she asked him, "I'm sorry, did you just say, your girlfriend pays rent or whatever?" And he said, "Yes, she's paying for her own half, and I'm going 50-50 with her." And she said, "But why? You make so much money. I'm just really curious." And he said, "Because it's my girlfriend." She went, "So, but like, what are you going to do when you get married?" And he said, "Oh, that's not my wife. That's my girlfriend. Like, she can pay to be near me, but when I get married, I'm not making my wife pay for anything." And it like blew her mind because this is the thing. My friend one time she said, "Men are not simple creatures. They've lied to us. They know exactly what they're doing. They know exactly what they're doing." So that's a really interesting concept because he loved his girlfriend. That's true. He loved spending time with her. That's also true. He was being honest. She probably thought, "Oh, hey, we live together. We go on vacations. We share friend groups. We have a life." Okay, that's true. You do have a life. And maybe he loves that life. But in his head, it wasn't the full truth. It was maybe 85% true, but their ideas were going off in separate directions, right? So she was thinking one thing, he was thinking another, okay? So here's another thing. Speaking of TikTok, this is my next point, okay? Is your actual conduct. And this is something you really have to I wish like somebody pulled aside all these like 20-year-olds when I was growing up when like Sex and the City came out and just like alerted them to the nonsense of the dating world. They would have all been much more like happier, well-rounded adults if they didn't squander their 20s crying over people. Okay. So lying by omission is really interesting and actions as well. Okay. So this one stresses me out a little bit because you do see it on TikTok. People will say like, when he sees you 4 times a week, celebrates your birthday, buys you things for Valentine's Day, gives you forehead kisses, but doesn't want a relationship. So you have to respect his boundary because he verbally told you, "Oh, I don't actually like want a relationship, so but I'm going to keep doing all these things." No, you don't have to respect that. And do you know why you don't have to respect that? Because it's not true. Do you know why it's not true? Because I was also watching some TikTok. I don't remember what the context was, but they said, "Should have got it in writing. Should have got it in writing. You didn't have a contract. You didn't have a contract. You didn't have a contract." This isn't actually true. A written contract or a verbal contract is not the end all and be all of the law. You like the most common, I think, thing in the law is a contested will. That's a written legal document. They're contested more than anything the world over. Okay. So it doesn't really mean anything because there's also something called a contract by conduct. Or even if you don't have it in legal writing, if you're showing up to a girl's house 4 times a week, taking her out, smooching her on the forehead, by your actions, you have formed a covenant. You've made a pact. You formed a bond. So whether you think not actually talking about it exempts you from consequences is absolutely delusional. Okay, so first of all, that's a moral failure on your part. It's also it just defies logic in terms of how social mammals interact. It's incredibly stupid. And then to expect that there won't be consequences, like you're not going to upset anyone or something, it's immature. You know exactly what you're doing. This is a thing, right? So and what's the thing we tell children all the time? Actions speak louder than words. So, of course, actions speak louder than words. Like you know better. So do better. And so this is my tidbit for you. Okay, if you're out there and you're dealing with someone like this, what are you doing? What are you doing? Like what are you doing? You know better. Don't involve yourself with people who after the age of 18, when they're adults, especially after the age of 25 when they're fully formed adults, cannot articulate their desire, cannot say, "I'm doing this and saying this because it's what I actually want, because I'm honest with myself." So situationships should not exist in your world. Full stop. This should not even be an idea that you entertain if you want a relationship. If you want a fling, you want a situationship, be free, go forth and be merry, okay? If you actually want a bond, that's crazy to me, okay? That's not even something you should consider. If you think about like the spirit realm and people who like do magic or something like that, once a pact is formed with entities, you're like, "Oh, you gave me this pile of money. I have this book full of money now. Um, thanks, I'm out. No, 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 no. You're not out. You made a deal. Okay. So you're going to cough up your half of the bargain, whether you feel like it now or not. It's completely irrelevant. The deal was made. So when you mix energy bodies together through, physical intimacy, bonding, romance, sharing of feelings, you share your time, you share your emotion, you can now say, I've tasted this garden of earthly delights. Thank you so much, lady. I'm going to be off now. You can shoo, shoo, shoo. Don't make a scene, please. It's embarrassing. Maybe on the surface you've gotten away with it. Maybe she didn't make a scene. She was very gracious and poised. But I promise you, behind the scenes, you are going to pay for your end of that bargain. Okay. It doesn't go unnoticed. Like if you do any type of energy work, or if you're just like nasty, like everybody has that coworker, you know what I mean? Everybody knows someone who's just insufferable. They're just really difficult to be around. So just because, if you pump negativity into your surroundings, into your environment, into the universe, into the cosmos, whatever, it does catch up to you one way or another. Like something's going to happen. Like, the jokes are always like men who lie go bald. Like, I promise you something will happen. That this does not go unseen by all that is. All right. So your own actions, just because you're saying, but I told you I didn't want anything serious, then don't act seriously. And you know what that means to that person. Like, don't act stupid. Okay. So if you're someone who's, watching this and wondering why your love life is in shambles, like please be honest with yourself. I don't care what someone tells you or promises you, unless they've delivered on their promises, means nothing. In my own life, I'll tell you, I had a boyfriend. Who just we just weren't on the same wavelength. He had this fascination with his boys, and I just thought it was really immature. It wasn't my thing. So his thing was clubbing, which I didn't care, but I noticed a few months into our relationship, something he was very charming. It's like my one Achilles heel, one of the few. And he would always keep my mind busy around Fridays. And then Saturdays he'd say, "Oh, I had plans with such and such," and I thought one day I just sort of thought, why can't we do something on a Saturday? And I realized because Saturday he would save to go clubbing with his friends or whatever, right? And I thought, I don't really like that. But then it kind of escalated to him traveling with his friends, which I don't understand. Why do you have a woman in your life if you don't want to spend time with her? Honest question. So I said to him, you can do what you want. I'm not angry, whatever, but this is stupid to me. It's a waste of my time. You're wasting your own time, which makes you question your intellect, makes you question your judgment. But then it got worse in that he just had this fascination with going to Las Vegas like 4 times a year. So that was a very short-lived relationship. It didn't make it to like over a 1 year or mark or something like that, right? Because I said, "Okay, this is like your 4th time going to Vegas in however many months, and if you're not taking me, don't like talk to me ever again, basically. I don't care." But I'm very calm. So I just said like whatever. And he thought it was bluffing and I was like, "Why are you calling me? Like we're not together anymore." And he went nuts. Like he showed up at my house the day before we were supposed to travel. He's like, "I can't even pack. I'm sick to my stomach. I won't go if you tell me not to go." I was like, "I'm not playing games. Like I'm very people don't take okay, like when I say something, I mean it. I hate repeating myself. So I said, "No, that's it. Like I'm not mad. I told you, you dishonored me through your actions. I'm not doing this. Okay. I get it. It's your ex-girlfriends were maybe dramatic. I know he had a phone thrown at his head and a shoe or something. I don't do that. Um, you do what you want and do what thou wilt, and I'll do what I wilt. And I wilted to leave. So I left. And he went nuts. He stalked me for months and months and months. Okay. The following year, what would have been our, I don't even know what, like something versary. I get this package in the mail and it did have something quite sentimental. So I'm very like cerebral. Like I love board games and puzzles and things like that. And what he did was he made a collage of our photos that he wrote a poem on and then took it to like an art shop and they printed it and then cut it into a jigsaw puzzle so when you assembled it you could see like what it said. But it was actually really funny because he just kept saying like he was not sentimental while we were going out, so he never wanted to take pictures with me. So the only picture that we had of the two of us, there's like one of the very, it was like two or three photos that he just repeated because he just didn't want to take photos. Was us on his best friend's birthday, who was standing in between us, and it was just, like, such a not romantic, it was such a and then he didn't know how else to fill the collage, so he literally put pictures of him on the beach, like, flexing, and I just thought, "You're so you just, like, don't deserve a woman, like, honestly, okay?" So what happened was In this box of all this stuff, there yes way, Rena, yes way, it gets worse. He had like a typed 2, 3, whatever page letter. I don't know what it is with me. I think because I'm really old fashioned. When I attract the modern man, I can't even tell you how many times I've gotten out of a relationship to receive, and I'm not joking. This actually happened in 2019, so quite recently. Okay, even in the modern age, I will receive letters like by snail mail to my door when I break up with someone. I don't know what it is, but he was one of the first to do it. Okay, maybe he wasn't one of the first, but he was. And in this letter, I'm going somewhere with this. He had this whole, I wanted to take you to see this band, but we weren't speaking. So I went with my best friend instead. Then, like, I went to Miami and thought of you, which I was gonna take you to, but we weren't together, so we didn't go. But I went with this guy. Then I would have, woulda, coulda, shoulda. It means nothing. It means rip, jack. It means nothing. Okay. Because if you really wanted to, you would what? You would, but you didn't. So it doesn't matter to me. Okay. So this is the sort of thing about words and actions. Okay. Yap, yap, yap. Nothing. Actions, everything. Actions speak louder than words. If you cannot perform a simple action, like the flowing of affection, you probably shouldn't be with anyone. All right. So that brings us to the lying by omission. Very, very annoying. Like when words and actions don't line up, or when guys will say like, "Oh, I don't remember." Just like being younger, I never liked people who partied and things like that. Like I'm a heavy reader, and they'll say, My boyfriend didn't whatever text me when he got home. He said he went to an after hours and kept partying, But then he failed to mention that after hours wasn't actually an establishment. He went to his ex's house. So he's like, "But I did keep partying. I told you that." No, no, you didn't tell her the full. Like, don't do that. You know it's wrong. So, and how you know that it's wrong is how it makes that person feel, right? So, and it's like that tweet or something that they read on like S Word and Giggles podcast. I'm trying not to swear, you know what's up. So I'm trying very hard. And they said, never believe a man when he says that the last thing that he wanted to do was hurt you. It was still on the list. It was just the last thing. So I found that really funny. But then is important to embrace consequences. Okay, so this is another thing. Whether you're a liar or being lied to, it's so valuable to embrace the consequences of life. Okay, so if you lie to someone, and there's backlash. Like, let's say you lie, you get elected, you're in office, you have a term, you do a terrible job. People have a right to be ticked. Okay. If you enter into a relationship um, based on your seduction without any desire to follow through on what you promised, you cannot act surprised, hurt, let down if that person distances themselves from you because they're not getting a return on their investment. Okay, like I was talking about magic, real energy work produces results. If you're not producing results, you're doing something wrong. Okay, so if you're not in the kind of relationship that you want to be in, you need to look at yourself. Okay, so basically, if you're like a liar and a cheater and this, that, the other, and you're not getting the results that you want, it's not necessarily that woman's fault or the fault of women or the fault of men or society at large. It's just what you're putting out to the universe. You're putting out dishonesty, you're putting out paranoia, you're putting out game playing and scams. That's what's going to meet you on your level. That's just the way that it is. So please don't act like it's like that Reddit thing. It's like my wife isn't talking to me and I don't know why. She filed for divorce out of the blue. It's like you failed to tell us the part where you went on a camping trip for 6 weeks while she was postpartum, like, what? You can't do that. Don't play the victim when you've deliberately villainized someone that you claim to really care about, okay? It's childish and a waste of time. It's just annoying. It's dribble, it's dross, it's froth. I don't wanna hear it. No, thank you, okay? So, be honest with yourselves. Learn to date, with a purpose, okay? I've told this story before and I'll finish with this again. So, dating with purpose is very helpful. Otherwise, why are you doing it? I remember meeting someone when I was 24 years old. He was 31. And he said to me 4 months into dating, just randomly, he went, "Oh, I don't, I know I'm never going to get married. I know I'm always going to be alone." I said, "Why are you dating?" And he said, and I really like I liked him. He was okay, but like never trust a Pisces. Like, what are you doing? I went home, I looked in the mirror. I was like, Mm, things were learned today. Things I have learned, but clearly not well enough because I did that again. So they were learned temporarily. temporarily. What happened was he just said like, I just know that I'll never get married. It's not really for me. And I said, why are you dating? So because I like you. You caught my like you're amazing. You're this. I said, no, no, no. Like, why are you dating? What's the point of dating if you're not going to marry someone? You're wasting their time. You know you're wasting their time. You know you're wasting their time. Why that's supposed you're supposed to open up with that on the first date, you know? And he's like, "Well, I was like, ciao." I got up, we exchanged some words, no hard feelings, and I left. But once again, don't stand there and look stunned and stupid. You're 7 years my senior. How embarrassing for you, right? So you get to do what you want, you get to live how you want. But I have a right to do the same. So I will leave you with this. Jan Van Zant has this amazing saying, and I honestly, because I'm really into the occult, I just think you're responsible for your own life. It's always down to you. You have no one to consider, no one else's actions, nothing. You have to ask yourself why you are where you are, what happened. And it's not to say that something's like punishing you, it's just the law of cause and effect. Like you just have to be really introspective and keep it so real. That's why I open with being honest with yourself. Be honest with yourself. She says, when someone's heart gets broken, whose fault is it? She says it's no one's fault, but you're responsible for your heart. You're responsible for your healing. You're responsible for where you find yourself. And I always thought that was true. I remember thinking like, I think one of the breakups that like hurt me a lot was because I don't like do substances and I never have and such. Um, that's one of my conditions that I thought it was crazy that I even had to say it, but I said to this person, "I don't do that, and I only date people who don't." And he like swore up and down he didn't. He only tried like once, and then he went to some party, and I was really tired. I went to bed early, and he just texted me like, "Hey, I'm gonna stay out late." But I saw the text in the morning, and I swear the second I opened my like, you don't lie to a witch. Like, what's wrong with you? The second I opened my eyes, I knew something was wrong, and I knew exactly what he did. Like maybe in the astral, I just knew. And I said, "I want to see you today," and he said, "Well, we don't have plans. I'm seeing you tomorrow." I said, "No, I just have a feeling. I just want to see you today. Something's just off. I could just smell it on him." And the second I saw him, I just knew. Like it's like his eyes just told me, like I did it. I did the nose candy. And I told him, "Okay, why? You lied to me." He's like, "It was there, and like I wanted to." And I said, "Okay, then you don't want me as your girlfriend. Like that's it. That's a deal breaker for me." And I left. It's like, I'm not kidding. I'm not playing around. So you have a right to do what you want, but people also have a right to react. Okay. Same thing goes for something like being ghosted or dumped. You have to be honest with yourself. And the social codes of life have got to make sense to you. So we're going to do another video on respect. So not just self respect, conduct, respecting conduct. Okay. If somebody cheats on you, respect their decision. What's done is done. Doesn't why they did it, who cares? It's done. They acted within their capacity. In that moment, they had the power of choice. They exercised their power of choice. Respect it. Why? You have the same power. Now I choose to leave. I choose to never speak to you again. Divvy up our assets, or I'm going to take this much, that much. You maybe will or will not see these kids. You will or will not live in this house. But now you respect my choice. It's never without consequence. You're never the idea of like the upper hand or some of that doesn't really that exists in the mind of children and Disney movies. That doesn't exist in the real world where adults actually operate on like adult level, okay? Someone does you dirty, you have a right to seal off access. Okay? So if like let's say my boyfriend who kept going to Las Vegas, I respect your decision. You booked that trip. I voiced my displeasure. And now that I've made the decision to leave this relationship, you have to respect me. You respect my choice. So, what you did was you closed the door on my wish, you closed the door on my boundary, you closed the door on my respect, you closed the door on the respect and the sanctity of our bond. And you're mad because I turned around and I locked it. So, it's okay for you to do it, but you think it's not okay for me to do it. It doesn't work like that. It just doesn't function like that. That's just not how life works. Everybody has a right to open and shut access to themselves, to their well being, and then to restrict it permanently. So once it's done, it's done. And then, if you're over there crying, wondering why your girlfriend left you or something like that, the only reason you would stay upset is if you're not honest with yourself. If you're telling yourself the truth, you'll know exactly what you did. Okay. But then it's a good lesson in respect. And honestly, I used to make some of the first TikToks I made about more than 3 years ago was about breakups, and breaking up is just a skill. I have a video on that. It's just a skill. You get better at it over time. It doesn't really hurt your feelings. I mean, life takes care of that anyway, like with age and maturity, but you can do it in your 20s or your teens. So once you understand respect and self-respect, respect for your time, um, and that in general, the pressure that women have to enter into relationships is a huge distraction, then you free yourself. Like I'm a very accomplishment oriented person, maybe a little too much. It's a bit masculine, but I never, ever, ever have I, even in my worst, darkest times, I've never let a man interfere with my goals. That's a form of self respect, right? So that's being honest with myself. What would I rather have out of these two? And my motto is effort will never betray you. My effort never betrays me. It's not a trust issue. I don't know what you're going to do. And honestly, doesn't, I don't care. It doesn't behoove me. I don't behoove. It doesn't concern me. It just doesn't factor into my thinking. I'm doing this to get that. That's going to produce a result. You're like a wild card. So I'm here while there's fun, while the getting's good. If it doesn't look good, I'm gone. It's not worth my effort. You don't respect me. I'm gone. Okay. That's how it is. So until next time, I'm thinking of going live consistently. Like I'm just trying to figure out like scheduling what would work for people. Like either do twice a week, like Wednesdays and Sundays, like one weekday, one weekend. I know we always have a really good time. This is so peaceful and calm, but we always have a wild time on TikTok. The only problem is people are like, please go on YouTube because then um, I want to like remember what you said and they can be like uploaded. Um, but yeah, we'll figure it out. We'll try like a little whatever. We'll try it for a little while and see if it's okay. And then just have to bring people from over there over here. I just don't want it getting out of control. Anyways, I want to also say I'm probably going to do one on the full moon in Virgo, February. Yes, Rena, February 24th, where we could like cast charts and such. So go check out my Etsy for that. And I'm also trying to, I have so many like occult books I need to get rid of. So hopefully I will start posting them again to sell like vintage books. But I love you very much. Stay tuned for the relationship series. I'll keep trying to like post so that we can catalog everything that we've ever talked about. I love you all and bye for now.